opioid crisis. For more information, visit talktoyourdoctor.org.
State Circle is made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities and is made possible by the generous support of our members. Thank you.
Seeking a green light for more highway money.
We cut our roads department in half.
Tightening gun confiscation rules.
Anybody convicted of such a horrific domestic violence attack, as in my case, should lose their weapons immediately.
And protecting the protectors of immigrants.
It is simple humanity to be treated with respect.
Connecting Marylanders to their government. This is State Circle.
Good evening. The big story around State Circle this week is the long and winding road. That is the route that local governments have been taking as they seek restoration of highway money that was cut in the last recession. Yolanda Vasquez has the story.
Mike Vincent, Town of North Beach.
An impressive showing from municipal leaders at a committee hearing this week.
What this bill would do is change the current law.
As Senator Rich Madaleno tries to reclaim highway user revenues for Maryland's 157 cities and towns.
I have a proposal that would restore the money for the municipal governments. It's not a lot of money, but recognizing that our small towns often have the oldest infrastructure.
Madaleno says for years, nearly 30% of the gas tax and vehicle registration fees collected by the state would be shared with local governments for their road work. But in 2008, that funding started to dwindle.
During the Great Recession, that money went away and has dropped down to a much lower amount.
The bill has the backing of the Maryland Municipal League and some Republican senators.
I represent 18 municipalities, several of which are under 500 people. And when you take a couple $1,000s from them, it puts a real strain on them.
The city of Greenbelt lost close to $4 million, as Mayor Emmett Jordan testified.
You know, that's a lot of money. It adds up. And when you talk about infrastructure, you either do it now and pay, or you do it later and pay more.
Laura Price from the Talbot County Council says the decrease in funding forced them to make some difficult decisions.
We cut our roads department in half, laid off roads crews, stopped maintaining and fixing the roads.
Jerry Walker says in 2007, Anne Arundel County received $30 million for road resurfacing and bridge repair projects.
That dropped from $30 million down to $1 million, which is a substantial decrease for a county of our size. That has since gone back up to about $3 million, but we're still operating 90% below where we were about 10 years ago.
A compromise on the bill has been worked out on the House side, and now it makes its way over to the Senate. But if the bill passes to restore funding, it will only be in place for 5 years.
It's not obviously back up to the levels that we had pre-recession timeframe, but it is a step in the right direction, and it's more than we have currently, which is why we're on board with it.
I'm not sure why it would sunset, because we need to keep amping it up, but anything's better than nothing, and I guess we're not going to look a gift horse in the mouth.
A sentiment that's shared by each municipality as necessary road work is put on hold year after year. In Annapolis, I'm Yolanda Vasquez for State Circle.
Among the gun bills being considered this year, a measure to remove guns from convicted domestic abusers. Charles Robinson has that story.
Moms demand action see light at the end of a dark tunnel where women who are domestically abused are often victims of gun violence. This year, they've pegged their hopes on House Bill 1646. It would tell the state's attorney to serve notice on a convicted domestic abuser to transfer or surrender firearms to an appropriate individual. Failing to do so will allow the courts to order a search and seizure of said weapons under certain circumstances. Leading the charge is Delegate Vanessa Atterbury.
I have to, from the bottom of my heart, thank every town in Moms Demand Action. You guys call me Mama Bear. These moms, they roll deep, and they have lobbied everybody in this General Assembly.
Anybody convicted of such a horrific domestic violence attack, as in my case, should lose their weapons immediately. They should not have time to sell them, give them away, what have you, that they should lose them immediately before they are used again on a helpless victim.
No one wants to be on the wrong side of this bill. At least one delegate wanted to know about the lag and time in retrieving guns.
How come the group didn't look for prior to the conviction, coming up with some mechanism that prior to the conviction, upon conviction, the firearms would be handled?
I do know this. I sell guns, and I don't want to sell guns to the wrong person. I think that this bill addresses a lot. I do think that something should be considered about the fact that this has to be reported to the FBI NICS check system, the National Crime Information Center. If it's not, I have no way of knowing if a person's gone through this entire process that we're discussing here.
Of the many gun bills that are making its way through this session, this is probably the most contentious one, especially in lieu of recent events where a Prince George's County police officer lost his life trying to protect a woman from a domestic abuser. It's literally galvanized everyone here. In Annapolis, I'm Charles Robinson for State Circle.
In the battle to contain the rising cost of prescription drugs, some independent pharmacists say that they are suffering at the hands of drug middlemen. They're appealing to lawmakers for help, as Nancy Amato reports.
Each year we have to do more for less, but this year we had reimbursements cut so dramatically, I was contemplating closing my pharmacy.
Pharmacist Jeff Salkin of Community Pharmacy in Salisbury told members of the House Health and Government Operations Committee that he and countless other pharmacists are losing money on prescriptions they've been filling due to pharmacy benefits managers, or PBMs, who are cutting back on the amount of money they're funneling from insurance providers to the pharmacists. In some cases, they're getting paid far less than they're spending to acquire the drugs.
I've had to personally, put out hundreds of dollars of ingredients for babies, and we got paid $2 or $3.
There is no other business that I know of that you can get paid below your acquisition costs and still be forced to give it out. And so we don't have that choice per our contract.
Despite denials from the PBMs, many believe the system is ultimately set up to drive out the mom and pop pharmacists.
One of the largest PBMs in America, Caremark, owns CVS, and so they don't behave this way with CVS. They drive business there, they pay themselves better, they reimburse themselves better. So it's a matter of fairness.
They're in cahoots somehow, so what this will also do is whatever they're reimbursing themselves, they have to reimburse everybody else at the same rate.
Delegate Carl Anderton's bill also calls for more transparency, allowing pharmacists to know which wholesale distributor has the lowest price. It also simplifies the appeals process with the Maryland Insurance Administration. This year, PBMs came to the table to help craft the bill that now has their support.
Frankly, we'd rather be here having a conversation with you than just seeing legislation that's passed. And I think we felt, while there's been difficult questions at times, that's fair.
This session, lawmakers are also considering eliminating a gag rule that prohibits pharmacists from sharing generic or cheaper medication options with their patients. The measure has already passed unanimously here in the Senate.
4 other states have banned this practice. It is just wrong for pharmacists not to be able to tell consumers the least expensive way they can purchase their prescription drugs.
I'm Nancy Yamada for State Circle.
For the second year in a row, some lawmakers opposed to President Trump's immigration policies have introduced a bill to protect families that they say are living in fear. The Support All Families Everywhere, or SAFE Act, clarifies the role of law enforcement. It grants immunity if they refuse to cooperate with requests by the feds.
They're human beings like all of us. So whether you're here legal, whether you're here documented or not, it doesn't matter. It is simple humanity to be treated with respect. The laws in Maryland should apply equally to everyone.
A similar bill passed in the House last year but failed in the Senate. This year, the bill has the support of the ACLU and numerous community groups. Progress this week on a plan to reduce the negative impact of federal tax reform on some state taxpayers. The governor had proposed returning all of the estimated $400 million in unexpected new state revenue. This week, the Senate Budget and Tax Committee approved a plan to increase the standard deduction by $500 for single payers and $1,000 for married couples.
And the articles I'm reading, it says about Marylanders are going to pay $200 million more in income taxes. I realize it would be more if we didn't pass this, but I still have a concern maybe about the fact that people are going to pay higher income taxes in Maryland, and that we're not, as they say, making people whole. We are keeping that higher revenue.
I understand your question totally,
revenue.
and won't disagree. I said earlier in my comments, after you net out any increases in state income tax versus their federal, there's still 9% of Marylanders who will end up paying more. But my point sort of was in trying to fix, we can't fix that. Now, we couldn't find a way to fix that 9% without extending those ways to resolve those issues without spending a whole lot of money. It just didn't work.
The bill will return about half of the $400 million state windfall. Committee Republicans and the governor threw their support behind this plan. Funeral services were held today for State Senator Wayne Norman. The Harford County Republican died unexpectedly in his sleep last weekend. Mr. Norman had served in the legislature since 2008. He leaves behind a wife, 2 children, and a granddaughter. He was remembered as a well-liked individual who possessed a sharp legal mind. Senator Norman was 62. Following up on International Women's Day, our newsmaker this week is Delegate Ariana Kelly, who is president of the Women's Legislative Caucus. Delegate, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
We wanted to get the status from you of the anti-sexual harassment legislation. Where does that stand?
We actually had a hearing on Monday in the House Rules Committee. It was a full hearing. We had 3 panels of proponents, supporters who really wanted to see the bill passed. We didn't have any opposition, which was a very good sign. And I think we'll be moving that bill out of the House Rules Committee onto the House floor next week.
What would the legislation do?
It has a number of really significant components. Very important, it would allow for anybody who would like an independent outside investigator to investigate their claim of sexual harassment against a member to have access to that avenue. Right now, investigations are conducted in-house, and that can be sometimes considered to be a little bit too embedded in the political process. So access to independent investigators we think is critical for victims to feel comfortable coming forward to report. It would also create a system, a structure within the State Ethics Commission to hold lobbyists accountable if they're engaging in sexual harassment, which we think is really important. And it would have us conduct a climate survey so we have a real comprehensive understanding of how pervasive sexual harassment is here so that we can figure out how to best address it.
Talk about the need for this independent investigator in the context of the General Assembly, when, of course, most women in the workplace are not working for the General Assembly, and they have to go to HR or to the owner of the company, whatever it is. Why isn't that good enough for the legislature?
Well, people who work in the legislature are in a bit of a different situation. We're actually carved out of the state and the federal law that protects other workers. So while we do have the human resources process in place, particularly when you're talking about filing a complaint against an elected official, because of the Maryland Constitution, we are a self-regulating body. Only elected officials can censure or choose to kick out of office, for example, one of our colleagues. We can do that ourselves. We can't be fired as elected officials. So we need a different type of process for accountability, specifically for elected officials. Other states that have done this, including New York and California, Oregon, Colorado, they've been very successful. The states where we're seeing the bad actors being held accountable use independent investigators.
You've personally described experiences along these lines. We've heard from some of your colleagues as well. Has anything changed? Have you noticed anything different in terms of the tenor of things in this legislative session now that the Me Too movement has become a national thing?
Absolutely. Things are different here. I think that there is a growing awareness and understanding about what sexual harassment is, what types of behaviors might be considered sexual harassment, and that's incredibly helpful. The Women's Caucus has been working for 18 months on our recommendations and the legislation that we have right now. And in those 18 months of research, we spoke with interns and staff and lobbyists and other legislative colleagues. We also spoke with experts who work on ways to prevent sexual harassment. They told us that one of the best things we can do is learn to develop empathy within our culture, that we need to make sure that people who have power and people who have less power really understand each other's experiences. So I'm seeing that beginning to happen as these conversations are taking place.
Do you feel that beyond the legislature and its special situation, that women in other workplaces in the state have adequate protection, adequate resources? I understand, for example, if there's a company policy about you should go to HR and you don't go to HR in the face of being harassed in some way, touched or worse, then you don't have a legal claim.
Yes, so these are complicated, incredibly complicated issues, and different companies set up different policies. One of the things that we're trying to do in the General Assembly is work with the private sector as well as our state agencies. We're not just looking at what's going on in the General Assembly, but we're looking across the board at ways that we can improve this process so that women feel protected and supported. And I would note that it's not just women. We have heard from a lot of men who also have experienced sexual harassment in the workplace. So this is an issue that is important for everyone.
I mentioned that yesterday was International Women's Day. Broadly speaking, a month to go in the session, what's on the agenda for the caucus?
So the women legislators of Maryland have 3 top priorities this session. Obviously, we've already talked about eliminating sexual harassment. Another of our top priorities is increasing access to affordable, quality child care. And our third priority is protecting rape victims. We've already talked about the Rape Family Survivor Protection Act, which passed already and the governor has signed. But in addition to that, there is another piece of legislation that's often known as the Prior Bad Acts Bill that passed the Senate yesterday, and we hopefully will see moving out of the House shortly. And that would allow information about previous sex crimes to be included in a current trial.
Delegate Ariana Kelly is president of the Women's Legislative Caucus. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we're back with the Political Roundtable right after this.
What happens in Japan and Asia matters to me. And with NHK World's newsroom in Tokyo, I get the news live from Japan right at the start of my day.
New ideas come out of Asia all the time. NHK Newsline reports on business, technology, and world events from Tokyo to Bangkok.
Once in the morning gives me a heads up on the competition.
Every hour on the hour, the news I want from Asia.
Watch NHK World now on Comcast Channel 268 and Verizon Channel 480.
Are you turning 70 and a half this year? If so, you generally have to start spending down your retirement account. Even the minimum distribution can place you in a sticky situation. Luckily, you can now use your IRA to make tax-free gifts. Gifts up to $100,000 will never count as income, but always make a difference. That's icing on the cake.
Make your gift for this year before December 31st. Visit mpt.org/support.
This is a box that shows you a world beyond your own. It was just a box, but the world has changed, and so have we. And now the box can be almost any size or shape. And you decide what you want to explore. Anytime, any place. Break out of the box with PBS.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood. We are the curious.
Wow!
The adventurous.
Oh! Grrr. Those venturing out for the first time.
and those who've never lost our sense of wonder.
Whoa. You sing this?
We are the hungry,
The strong.
I must be the greatest, the joyful.
A happy little cloud.
We believe there is always more we can uncover.
More we can explore.
We believe in the capacity for goodness and the potential for greatness.
The torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans.
PBS.
PBS.
For the Political Roundtable this week, Charles Robinson joined by Steve Lash of the Daily Record. Thanks to both of you for being with us. And Charles, it is hard to believe that a month from today, the legislature is set to adjourn, presuming that they get the budget done.
Yes, and we'll get our budget on next week, on Monday. It'll start that process. Then, of course, it'll go back and forth between the two chambers. But it's the one bill that has to be passed here before anything else can get done.
You know, they're fortunate to have a relatively quiet year from a budget standpoint. The economic news has been good. The revenue estimates came out this week, updated by the Comptroller's office and staff there, and you know, no major developments in that, except for the impact, as we reported earlier, of the federal tax law changes. And they're in a position to spend some more money in terms of the Washington Metro and this situation that came up with the Baltimore Metro.
Right. Understand this is that it's 3 states and the District of Columbia, which have to put money into a pot, if you will, to fund Metro in the Washington Metro area. Conversely, in Baltimore, you know, they shut down the Metro system at the beginning of this month because of some much needed repairs. Well, guess what? They actually got the Metro back running this Friday, and they will basically allow people to ride for free. But guess what? There are a lot of problems with rails in and around this state. And in fact, in Baltimore, they're going to have to come back in August and do some additional repairs.
Steve, you're on the legal beat for the Daily Record, and the legal beat intersects with the budget story this year in terms of what judges get paid.
Yes, the judges look like it looks very close that they're going to get their first raises in 3 years. It's not a very large amount of money. It's going to be about $5,000 a year boost over the next 4 years for a $20,000 raise when all said and done 4 years from now.
What's the process for that? How does the legislature decide? Where do the numbers come from?
The numbers originally came from there's a judicial compensation commission, and their original proposal was for a raise of actually $35,000 over the next 4 years, but that did not survive the House Appropriations Committee, which cut it to a $20,000 raise in $5,000 per year increments over 4 years.
The legislature, the Senate in particular, has been working on a big crime bill, an omnibus crime bill, which I think is Latin for there's a lot of different stuff in it. What's in there?
Oh, a lot of things. One of the things is to go for enhanced penalties for on gun possession, which is sort of taking off on what Governor Hogan proposed was mandatory minimums, but that was sort of a bridge too far for the Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee Chairman Bobby Zirkin, who said, no, we'll go for sentence enhancements, retaining judicial discretion as well as prosecutorial discretion with regard to sentencing.
You know, one of the things, either of you can comment if you care to on this, one of the things that surprised me, I think in terms of the omnibus crime bill, we reported earlier on this agreement in Senate Budget and Tax on how to deal with the new federal tax law, and it's giving the governor a little bit of what he wanted, but not a lot, certainly not the whole thing. The Hogan administration has sent out press releases basically applauding, saying terrific, claiming victory and moving on. And if you think back, Charles, to when the last Republican governor came in, Governor Ehrlich, there was the famous Mike Miller quote. President of the Senate told him you'd have 3 good years and then a really political duke it out kind of year. That doesn't seem to be what's playing out this year.
I think they kind of shot their wad early, if you will. You know, there was a lot of tension early on. But I think everybody wants to get out of here to start actual campaigning. You know, I think the governor actually came forward and said, hey, let's put the partisanship behind us. Let's get what we got to get done, and there'll be time for actual campaigning.
Well, it's easy to say when you're a Republican governor, he's not being challenged, in the primaries, and it's just basically all going to come down to the general election. And his governor's presumably thinking, well, let's let the Democratic candidates duke it out, and I'll just sit back and wait for the general election campaign.
And it doesn't hurt the fact that the governor this week was up on Capitol Hill. And guess what? That plays well at the national media, and it also plays well back here in the state.
It does play well. The governor was talking about the opioid epidemic, which, of course, has been ravaging Maryland as well as other states. And the governor had his chance to speak to Congress. And, of course, as Charles said, gives more national exposure.
Just a few seconds here, and to put you on the spot, the crime bill, is there anything in that on opioids?
Anything on opioids, but not a little of. That's mostly the lot that was handled under the Justice for Investment Act a couple of years ago, where it was just basically to change from punishment to treatment for users of drugs. The crime bill is directed at violent offenders, those the major drug dealers.
Steve, we're going to leave it there. Read more from Steve in the Daily Record. Gentlemen, have a great weekend. Thanks, everybody, for watching State Circle, and have a good night.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.
Artworks is MPT's weekly on-air arts salon.
My motivation is a very personal one.
Get the insider track on artists from across the country and the world.
Our artists are an eclectic group of creative minds.
Discover our area's diverse artists, musicians, and writers.
Our village was a repository of dreams.
Join Rhea Fiken and her local co-hosts every week on Artworks. Tonight at 7:30 on MPT.
Public Square on MPT. It's TV worth watching.